Good evening and welcome to our Better Husband Zoom support group. Every Tuesday night at 8:30, we join together as husbands to learn how to improve ourselves to become a better husband. Last week, our previous installment talked about emotional support, part number 1, learning how to become emotionally supportive to our wife and to our children. There are 3 steps that we talked about in part 1 of how to be emotionally supportive. They are: number 1, to name the feeling that the wife or child is feeling. For example, you say, "That seems very frustrating," or "You seem very upset. You seem very hurt. You seem very, very sad about that or down about that. You seem very frustrated." To name the feeling and to say it with feeling, to show the child or the wife how you are on their page, knowing what they're feeling. Now, if you guess the feeling and you suggest, "You seem very angry," they may correct you and say, "No, I'm not angry. I'm just frustrated." "Okay, I see that. I see frustrated." Or, "I see that you're very sad." "No, I'm not sad. I'm just really, really, really insulted." Okay. So help the person clarify what they're feeling. It's very important in terms of teaching a child to have emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, to how to name the feeling. And I suggested last week that we get a poster, and you can go online and buy a laminated poster from ctherapy.com, the letter C, therapy.com, for $15, a laminated poster with faces on it of different emotions being expressed by children. And one of our jobs as a parent is to teach a child how to be emotionally aware. What are they feeling? Because we live in the emotions. We live here in the emotions. We have 3 dimensions of the self. We have a mind, we have emotions, and we have actions. The mind, heart, and doing. But we live mostly here in the emotional, in the heart part of our being. And we get angry, we get sad, we get happy, we get motivated, we get excited, enthralled, joyous, frustrated, upset, depressed. All that lives here in the emotions. And we can either go down into our body and go, "Okay, well, let's fight about that," or "I'll get very angry," or "I'll punch you," or "I'll cry," or "I'll do something physical," by taking the emotion and going down into my body. The gravity pulls the emotion into my body and I really want to fight back. Or I want to cry on my bed. Or I can feel the pain, and instead of going into my body, if I name the emotion and have the emotions released by a learned parent, by a father who knows what he's doing in terms of giving emotional support, when you empathize with that pain, understand, name the feeling, and you keep going in that dialogue back and forth a number of times until the child goes, "Yeah, really, really hard," then you can have an emotional release on the part of the child or the wife, and then the person can move on. But you cannot work on problem solving or intellectualizing or teaching a lesson or a life lesson until you've learned this art right now, which is emotional support. And until the child or the wife goes like this and breathes a sigh, a release of emotion, you cannot give any instructions. You cannot have any discussion about solving the problem, whether it's a child or a wife, because you haven't learned the art of emotional support. So step number 1 is name the feeling. And step 2 is understand the feeling. Oh, makes sense. You studied so hard for that test and you didn't get the grade you wanted. So you're upset, you're hurt. I get that. I understand that. So not only do you name the feeling, but step 2 is you understand and accept the feeling, not negating the feeling by saying, as we usually say as fathers, "Don't worry about it. It's okay. You'll find another friend, right? You'll do better next time," right? That sounds like reassuring. And we do it very, very gently and very lovingly, but it doesn't work. That's not called emotional support. Emotional support means accepting the feeling, even though we're afraid of the feeling, even though it awakens within ourselves our own frustration, anger, upset, insult, hurt, depression, sadness, whatever the child's feeling. We feel the same way within ourselves sometimes as well. And we're afraid of those feelings. And when we name the feeling, we're afraid maybe we'll exacerbate the problem. Maybe we'll encourage the child to emote more. Maybe we'll have the wife freak out more, be more hysterical if we name the feeling. Say, yeah, you're very upset. I get that. We're afraid to do that because we think that the person is going to expand further into their emotional hysteria. Not true. The idea is they may explode more, but then they will calm down. Why? Because you are there for them. You can absorb the pain. That's the key. You, as a father, as a husband, have to be able to be present with the emotions, deal with them, face them, accept them, understand them, be on the same page as them, and then say, I'm bigger than these emotions. I'm okay right now. Sometimes we're emotional. Sometimes we're upset about a job or a client that we've lost, or a new job, or a challenge at work, or someone got a promotion over me, or a challenge we're having with finances. So we need someone to talk to. So we become the emotional person, and the wife has to be emotionally supportive of us. We, gentlemen, we usually are looking for solutions when we emote. But women and children don't look for solutions. They look for this magical word called understanding. And we don't get that. We husbands don't get that because we're wired differently. We're wired to solve problems. We are problem solvers. We fix the faucet. We turn the light bulb. We take out the garbage sometimes. But we're supposed to be the ones who fix the problem. We're the daddy. We're the Abba. We're the father. We're the one who's supposed to be the big, strong guy who's going to solve all the problems. And yet, the new husband in the new world, the new father, has to take on a new dimension. We have to grow. We have to become a better husband, a better father, by learning the art of emotional support. And that's what we're learning right now. So in session 1, we're now in session 2, but in session 1, we learned the 3 steps. First one is name the feeling. Number 2 is, I understand. It makes sense that you're upset right now. The child or wife may still be going on and on. Hang in there. Hang in there with them. Stay in the game. Don't get frustrated. Don't say, enough already. I told you already. Keep on and on and on and on. I'll give you an example. We have issues with carpool. Now, carpool is one of the major life issues, as you all know. And the issue comes up is that you have to trade carpool sometimes. You have to wait for a kid and everyone else gets there late. A kid is dawdling, a kid forgot a school bag, you have to go back, forgot his lunch. And we get upset, we parents, the mother or father, get upset at the other parent for not having the child ready on time. And it's very frustrating because we get late, we get the kids late to school, then we get late notes, and we get phone calls from the teacher or the principal saying, why is the kid's late? And we say, well, it's because Mrs. Schwartzberg, she got her kid late. Well, we can't do that because that's speaking evil about other people. So we get frustrated, and then we talk to the other people in the carpool saying, well, we have to kick out this person out of the carpool because she's not reliable, and their kid's never ready on time. And you call her up and you say, well, let's solve the problem. And she says, no, it's not my fault. My kid just never gets up on time. So this is very complicated. So carpools give you a glimpse as to how a family runs. It's a glimpse, tip of the iceberg in terms of functionality in a family. And it really reveals a lot. And how we, other families, handle that, or how we handle our own carpool obligations, is very telling about how we can handle functionality in our own families. So there was one particular case about 15 years ago when there was a particular family in our carpool who was not on time. And the kid was never ready on time. And we waited 4 or 5 minutes, 6 minutes for the kid to get ready. But when she came to our house and our kid was late by 1 minute, she would drive off. She said, not ready. So we waited for you for 5, 6 minutes. So you can't wait for my kid for 1 minute? My kids usually wait and ready within 60 to 80 seconds. Your kid's ready in 6 or 7 minutes. And we wait and you drive off. So big United Nations negotiations. And my wife would talk to me about this issue every single day for weeks. She wasn't ready. She's not nice. She's not caring. She drives away. And I'm going, really? Wow. That is so hard. After hearing this for about 3 weeks in a row, I'm going, could you get over this? Like, could you let it go? Like, is this going to be the theme of our life? Carpool with this lady? Boy, I never heard the end of that one, man. That was a huge mistake because I didn't wait long enough to let my wife go, I guess we'll just have to deal with this person, or we'll have to change carpools next year or exclude it from the carpool next year, but we got to deal with it right now. But I didn't get to that point because I got frustrated. I lost it. I didn't hang in there long enough. But I have to hang in there if I want to be a learned husband, a learned, emotionally supportive husband. I have to hang in there until she gets it all out of her system. Because if it ain't getting out of her system, I'm not going to hear the end of it, right? So really, it's in my best interest to hang in there with my wife until she finally emotes and gets through this issue. But I got to listen to it all the time. But we tend to say, didn't I hear this yesterday? Didn't I hear this last week? Like, are you telling me the same story, right? And we have a tendency to do that because we want to move on. We want to fix things. Let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. Like kick her out of the carpool or get somebody else or have a din Torah or something, right? But that's not the answer, gentlemen. The answer is we got to hang in there and be there for the spouse. Very hard to do. Very difficult. I hung in there for 3 weeks, but it wasn't enough. Got to keep going. So that's the issue. The issue is we have to learn this art. So we have to stay there, stay there, stay there. And that's the third dimension called be with the feelings. Just stay with them. Just hang in there. Even if it ping pongs back and forth, dialogue ping pongs back and forth for 3 or 4 ping pongs, or 5 or 6 interchanges of dialogue, or 9 or 10, or in my case, 3 weeks of hearing about this carpool thing. And it went on throughout the whole year. And I had to be, learning this process of empathy. I had to go, wow, that's so hard. But I heard it every day. It was really, don't tell my wife this, annoying. But I had to learn the art. So that's what I'm sharing with you. I'm learning from my experience and my mistakes and sharing with you that we have to learn how to take it. We're the husband, we're the father. We have to be able to absorb the pain of the child and mother and wife until they go, until the emotions are released, you're not going to get any cooperation. You're not going to get any problem solving. You're not going to get any answers. So we have to learn that patience. We have to learn that art of empathy, to empathize without solving the problem. The problem solving comes after the emotional release. But unless the emotions are released by the child or the wife, you're not going to get any cooperation. And you're going to get an argument from the wife saying, why aren't you there for me? Can't you just listen? Can't you just be there? Right? So that's the key. So now I'm going to share with you in our role playing, we're going to do some new role plays now tonight of the art of emotional support. And we're going to use some dialogues from the Bible of emotional support. That Bible is this book called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk by Adele Faber and Elaine Maislish. And the sequel is this book called How to Talk So Teens Will Listen and How to Listen So Teens Will Talk by Adele Faber, Elaine Maislish. This book's role playing with a father watching television and a child, little boy, trying to get his father's attention. Now, of course, the father is watching a playoff game. Now, this Sunday, the Baltimore Ravens are playing the Tennessee Titans in a playoff game. Now, last year, the Titans defeated the Ravens in a shocking game because the Ravens were 14-2 and the Titans were 9-7. And the Ravens, which is my team, were supposed to go all the way to the Super Bowl, but they got knocked out in the first round. Now, we were very upset about that. And I was depressed about that for about 3 or 4 months. I'm still getting over it. But now is revenge time. Now is this Sunday, 1:05 kickoff is the game. Now, imagine if I was watching the game. Oh, my goodness. Let's say 3:30, halfway through the third quarter, tie game. And my son, the little boy in this picture over here, wants to talk. Now that is going to be a major life test, I can imagine. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, because this is a tough test. Third quarter, Ravens, Titans, revenge game on the way to Super Bowl. And my kid wants to talk about something happened in school. Whoa. I don't know if I can handle this, but let's imagine it was a regular season game. Okay, that's it. Playoffs, forget about that. I wouldn't be able to do it during playoffs. But a regular season game, fifth game of the season, a kid wants to talk. I can press the DVR and record the game and listen to my kid. Here's what I can do. Let's look at the dialogue and see how it plays out. The left side of the page is how not to do it. The right side of the illustration is the right way to show emotional support. Let's go ahead with our two volunteers. Unmute yourselves, please, gentlemen. And let's go ahead with the two dialogues. Eric punched me. Go ahead.
Eric punched me. So, Daddy, do you hear me?
I can hear you. Go on.
So I hit him back. Then he hit me again. Are you listening?
I'm listening to every word.
No, you're not.
I can listen and watch the game at the same time. Go on.
Oh, forget it.
Now, what's happening here is very discouraging to try to get through to someone who gives only lip service to listening. He says he's listening. That's I'm listening, but that is watching the game while he's listening. Now, a child, imagine a child or you, if your wife is doing something else and you want to be listened to. Very, very disturbing, very upsetting, because I believe that the feeling might be neglect. I think the little boy is feeling neglected. He's feeling abandoned, perhaps. He's feeling rejected. That daddy's saying, I'm listening, but I'm not paying attention. Now, can this happen in real life? Well, let's imagine. There's something that developed over the past 10 years. It's a novel thing, and perhaps you haven't heard of it. It's called the smartphone. And the smartphone goes with us wherever we go. And it comes with us into the car. And we try to do something called multitasking, which is we try to drive the car and look down at the phone at the same time. We call this multitasking. So I read a study on this that said that there is no such thing as multitasking, because multitasking means trying to do two things at the same time. This is not humanly possible. We cannot text and drive at the same time. Why? Because the brain can only be occupied with one thing at a time. So how can I text and drive at the same time? You're not driving and texting at the same time. What you're doing is very quickly driving, texting, driving, texting. You're not doing it at the same time. You're driving and then looking down, texting. So you're not doing two things at once. You're doing two things in quick succession. And you call that multitasking, but it isn't true. It's not multitasking. It is two acts. Now, when these two conflict, when I'm looking up and looking down and I didn't see a car coming, and I say, it came out of the blue. The car came out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere. It came from down the street, but I wasn't looking. You take your eyes off the road for 2 seconds, you're going to blow it. And gentlemen, I'm talking to myself here. You can listen in. I should not be doing this anymore. I should lock the phone in my trunk and not look at it until I get to my destination. We survived 10 years ago and 15 years ago and 20 years ago without a phone in the car. I remember I used to watch it when I was a kid, and one rich guy in a Bentley drove by with a phone, and we all looked, he has a phone in his car. Whoa, look at that. And it was like a real phone with a wire next to it, and he picked it up and he would phone. It's an ivory colored phone. He says, he has a phone. He must be really rich. And we all like in awe. Now everybody has a phone in their car, but it's very, very serious, very dangerous. Even if we put the phone on the monitor in front of us and we watch the Waze, etc. It's helpful to watch the Waze, but if we're talking on the phone or looking at some video or doing some FaceTiming, very, 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 very bad, gentlemen. I'm just encouraging ourselves, all of us, not to do it. It's not a good example for our children or our teenagers who begin to drive. It's just not good, right? Especially because We say it's multitasking, but it isn't, right? So therefore, we can get caught out. And so far, we've survived. We know people who haven't survived. So I think we should encourage ourselves not to do that anymore. But so too with listening to television and talking to our child. We can multitask. I can watch TV, watch the game, and talk to my child at the same time. Can you really? No, you can't. You're trying to watch the game and watch the child and watch the game and watch the child and watch. You're not going to be really present. So, and the person who you're talking to, feels dissed. Now, I'll tell you an example. My teacher, my Rebbe, when I was in Kollel, learning in yeshiva in a rabbinical seminary in Jerusalem when I was in my late 20s, and we had 1.5 children, and I asked a question to my Rebbe, Rabbi Naftali Kaplan at Or Sameach Yeshiva. And he was that time in his 70s. I was in my 20s, and I asked a question on the Talmud, and he looked at me like this. He went, with such intensity. And when I got to the end of the question, he went like this. He picked up his finger and said, no. The question revealed whether I understood the topic that we're discussing. And from a question you can understand, you can see whether a person is holding by the inyan, holding by the subject matter and understanding the subject matter. So he went, good. No. As he was speaking to me like this with such intensity, I actually looked around and I said, are you looking at me? He was looking at me with such focus, such concentration, such intention. He's a genius of Talmud. He's a great scholar. And I'm a little peon of a budding student. And I am this big, and he's a giant. There you go. He's a giant of Talmudic study. And he would look at me like this and give me such respect, such intensity, such caring. I was shocked. No one ever did that to me before. So here I'm learning Talmud, but what I was really learning was respect. I was learning how to talk to people, learning how to focus on people. And I couldn't imagine him talking to me. I said, you're looking at him? No, you're looking at me. I remember doing that. So that a couple weeks later, I was at home on a Thursday night, talking to my wife at the table. We had 1.5 children at that time. And I was doing this. I was looking at a Talmud. I was looking at my Talmud while she's talking to me. I was going like this. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Right. So she's saying, well, the baby had a cold today. I said, and we're going to have some guests for Friday night dinner. Okay. And my parents are coming in 2 weeks. We have to get ready. Yeah. And she was saying, I'm talking to you and you're reading your book. Yeah, but I'm a student. I'm studying Talmud now. That's what I came to Jerusalem for, to study Talmud. Don't you understand that? And I'm going, yeah, So she picked up my book. She said, can I have that, please? She closed it like this, quietly, gently. And she said, do you do that when your rabbi, your rebbe, your teacher is speaking to you? Do you look in a book while he's talking to you? I said, I wouldn't dare. If my rebbe was talking to me, I would definitely not look in a book. I would just look straight at him and say, yes, Rebbe. So I was shocked because I realized that my Rebbe is this big, a giant, and I'm this big. And yet he gave me respect talking to me. But my wife is my 50-50 equal, my partner. And I am not giving her the respect. I'm giving the Talmud more respect than my wife. The Talmud would not want me to give more respect to the Talmud than to her. The Talmud tells me to be respectful to my wife more than the Talmud. When God came to visit Abraham to heal him from his circumcision, he saw 3 guests coming. He said, God, excuse me, I'm busy right now. I got to go visit my guests. But I'm visiting you, God. God had the right to say to him, I'm visiting you after circumcision. You have 3 people walking by. 3 travelers? You got to talk to God. No. He said to God, God, excuse me, you're visiting, thanks a lot, but I got 3 wayfarers coming. I got to invite them into my tent. And he left God's presence and ran to get the guests. From there, we learn it's more important to welcome guests than to talk to God, because guests are representative of God. So my wife is a representative of God, a messenger from God, and I have to give her more respect than I give to the Talmud itself. So when I'm looking down and saying, so she closed the book, and I realized then that I have to give her 100% undivided attention in order for her not to feel dissed. So very important dimension of emotional support is being present, physically present, focused, eye-to-eye contact with a child, with a wife, there and being present. Before we get to emotional support altogether, you have to be physically, emotionally present by looking at the person, eye-to-eye contact, same level. In fact, studies have shown that the families that have dinner together 5 nights out of 7 have children who are better adjusted, more successful in school, better socially adjusted, and more successful in their self-esteem. And this is a study done by Columbia University. Every year from 2005 to the present have done an annual study on topic of having dinner with your family. Look it up. The Columbia Having Dinner with Your Family study. And it talks about the delinquency rates of people who don't have dinner with their families. So that's men who don't have dinners with their families. Because when you have a dinner with your family and you're on eye-to-eye contact level and you're just talking and listening, pass the sugar, pass the dinner, can you pass the beans and the carrots? Yeah, how was your day? What's going on? On the eye-to-eye contact level, and you give mutual respect to people at the table, that builds a foundation of mutual respect. So therefore, in this example here, the father is, and we do it all the time, give half an ear, but gentlemen, it's not right. It's a mistake. Let's go and do the right example and see how powerful it is to give face-to-face attention. Go. Let's do the example on the right side of the page. Eric punched me. Go ahead.
Eric punched me. So, Daddy, do you hear me? So I hit him back. Then he hit me again, even harder. He's mean. You know what? I'm going to play with Danny from now on. He doesn't go around punching people.
Now, in this example, the father didn't say anything. And the commentary says it's much easier to tell your troubles to a parent who is really listening. He doesn't even have to say anything. Often a sympathetic silence is all that a child needs. Now, we're not talking here about sympathy, gentlemen. We're not talking about sympathy. We're talking here about a more important word than sympathy. Sympathy is too simple a word. Sympathy means, oh, poor baby. Oh, poor kid. Oh, so sorry. It's very insincere to be sympathetic. It's much more sincere to be empathic. Empathy and sympathy are 2 different things. Sympathy is, oh, sorry to hear that. Empathy is, I feel your pain. You cannot feel your wife or your children's pain unless you look at them and actually absorb the pain. So step number 1 is look at, eye-to-eye contact, be present, be physically and emotionally present by absorbing the pain. Now, here is the prime example. I think this is the most important example of illustration of how we can be supportive. It is the secret to success in marriage and parenting and fathering. And here it goes. Our example of my turtle. So an example of our participants, please go through this scenario. Go ahead.
My turtle is dead. He was alive this morning.
Now, don't get so upset, honey. Don't cry. It's only a turtle. Stop that. I'll buy you another turtle.
I don't want another one.
Now you're being unreasonable.
Now, this was sort of like me and my wife with the carpool after 3 weeks. I said, it's enough already. We'll get another carpool. We'll figure it out, right? No, I don't want another carpool. I want this carpool. So this is a total usual example of a father getting frustrated. And it's strange when we urge a child to push away a bad feeling, however kindly, the child only seems to get more upset. So even though we say, oh, sweetheart, you lost your turtle. It's only a turtle. Even though we think we are being reassuring, even though we think we are being kind by saying, oh, it's only a turtle, don't worry about it, we'll get you another turtle. That's not emotional support. That's not empathy, because the words and the body language have to share the pain. You have to feel the pain of the child and the wife. Otherwise, you're just playing lip service, and you're in fact negating feelings by saying, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal, we'll get you another turtle. We think that that's reassuring. It is not. It is worse. It makes the person feel like you are negating their feelings. But here, gentlemen, is the secret to success in marriage. And what's going to happen now with the father and the turtle is exactly what happens to a father or a husband and a wife. It's the same principle, the same idea. A father and a child, or a father and a husband and a wife, have the same type of interaction. Doesn't matter that it's a child and a turtle. It can happen with a wife and carpool, or a wife and her mother-in-law, her mother, or her wife and the child. Doesn't matter. This is the prime example of how we, gentlemen, can learn to win as a father and husband. Let's go ahead with this example, and this is the winning formula. Here it goes.
My turtle is dead. He was alive this morning.
Oh no, what a shock.
He was my friend.
To lose a friend can hurt.
I taught him to do tricks.
You two had fun together.
I fed him every day.
You really cared about that turtle.
That was very touching, very beautiful, very sensitive. And parents don't usually give this kind of response because they fear that by giving a name to the feeling, they'll make it worse. Just the opposite is true. The child who hears the words for which he is experiencing is deeply comforted. The parent has acknowledged his inner experience. This is the key. When we as fathers and husbands acknowledge the inner experience, the inner pain, the inner emotions of our wife or our children, that is called being there for your spouse or child. That's called emotional support. Notice one important thing. The father didn't offer to buy a new turtle. He didn't offer to solve the problem. Didn't say, don't worry about it. He was just totally present, reflecting the feelings, being empathic, understanding, and that's the key to emotional support. If you learn how to do this, gentlemen, this art form, you will be a majorly happy person because you will be able to be there for your wife or your children, and they will appreciate it. They will be there. They will understand. They will feel like you're the best father and husband around because you've learned the art of emotional support. Let's move on to the next example. Two more examples. Somebody stole my new red pencil. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Somebody stole my new red pencil.
Are you sure you didn't lose it?
I didn't. It was on my desk when I went to the bathroom.
Well, what do you expect if you leave your things lying around? You had things taken before, you know. This isn't the first time. I always tell you, keep your valuables in your desk. The trouble with you is you never listen.
Oh, leave me alone.
Don't be fresh.
Now, this is a typical dialogue where a child is being instructed to do something before emotional support. They cannot think clearly or solve a problem or think constructively when someone is questioning, blaming, or advising her. Why? Because emotional support, understanding the pain of the loss of the pencil, has not yet taken place. But on the right side, we learn how to do it correctly. Gentlemen, go ahead and do the right side, please.
Somebody stole my new red pencil.
Oh,
I left it on my desk when I went to the bathroom, and somebody took it. That's the third time I've had my pencil ripped off.
Oh,
I know. From now on, when I leave the room, I'm going to hide my pencil on my desk.
I see.
Now here, the father only gave one-word answers. I see. Very empathic, was wonderful, excellent dialogue. And here, there's a lot of help to be had by a simple or I see, or Words like these are not really words. They're really words of empathy. And they're coupled with a caring attitude, are invitations to a child to explore her own thoughts and feelings and possibly come up with their own solutions. And that's the key. What we're looking for, gentlemen, is actually a misnomer. If we think that in our homes and with our wives, we are looking to be in love, we're wrong. What does love mean anyway? What does love mean? I want to be in love. I love my wife. I love my children. It doesn't mean anything. It's too amorphous. What love means is providing emotional safety. In my home, in your home, in our homes, our goal is not love. Our goal is to provide emotional safety and security, which requires, number one, zero criticism of children and wife. Zero. None. And I invite you to experiment the next 7 days until we meet next Tuesday night. Try zero criticism. None. Do this, do that. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why don't you try this way? Don't spill the milk. Zero criticism, and try this emotional support instead. And report back to us next Tuesday night and tell us whether it's working, whether there's a change in the quality of your relationship. Because the purpose of being in a home is not to be criticized, not to be hurt, but to be absorbed, to be accepted, to be validated. And that's what marriage is about. That's what a home life is. That's what parenting is about, to provide emotional security. You could teach after emotions are calmed down, after emotions are understood and accepted. You can teach a lesson or give an instruction afterwards, or give an idea or a concept. But first, zero criticism, total acceptance, emotional support, and then the child says, oh, Dad's here for me. My husband really gets me. I really appreciate your support. Then you can talk problem solving. Let's go with the last example over here today on the left side. I want my toasty crunchies. Gentlemen.
I want my toasty crunchies.
We don't have any, dear.
I want them. I want them.
I just told you there aren't any in the house. Have some nifty Krispies.
No.
Now you're acting like a baby.
Now here, the father or mother here is offering solutions. Have nifty Krispies before understanding the upsetness of the child. When children want something they can't have, adults usually respond with logical explanations as to why they can't have it. The harder we explain, the harder we protest. Let me read that again, but in a different context. The more we as adults want something we can't have, and we have a tantrum because of it, the more the other person isn't going to give it to us. Whether it's a wife, a sibling, or God. I want it. I want it. Right? That's not going to get us anywhere. And responding by saying, you can't have it. You can't have, we don't have any, dear, is giving a solution. We don't have any in the house right now. Our job as a parent and as a husband is not to offer solutions. It is counterintuitive to us because we gentlemen, we fathers, husbands, we solve problems. That's what you're here for. We fix the faucet, we make a living, we call the gardener, we call the plumber, we fix it ourselves, we mow the lawn, we do all the problem solving. We go get the stuff that we need in the store. That's what we do. We're hands-on strategic problem solvers. But that's not enough anymore, gentlemen. In this world we live in today, with this greater awareness of emotions and a greater awareness of emotional security and emotional intelligence, we have to take on a new role. We have to take on a new dimension of ourselves, and that is the art of emotional support. Let's see how we do it on the right side. Example of, I want my toasty crunchies. Let's try it again.
I want my toasty crunchies.
I wish I had some in the house for you.
I want them.
I hear how much you want them.
I wish I had them now.
I wish I had the magic power to make a giant box appear.
Well, maybe I'll have some nifty Krispies.
Oh,
That was very good. In this example, however, I would say that the father could be a little more sensitive, a little more caring with his words. Like, try it again on the right side of, let's try this dialogue again, but a little bit more empathy. Because when your father or mother is giving, words, the father who usually are us, we fathers are very practical, very down to earth, very solution oriented. I'm saying, you don't have any. I wish I had something to give you. Sorry, I don't have it. That kind of language is not going to solve the emotional pain. We have to up our game, gentlemen, and use a tone of voice, which is a warm, loving, empathic, emotionally embracing tone of voice. Let's try that example again, a little warmer this time.
I want my toasty crunchies.
I wish I had some in the house for you.
I want them.
I hear how much you want them.
I wish I had them now.
I wish I had the magic power to make a giant box appear.
Well, maybe I'll have some Nifty Krispies.
Oh,
Excellent. Much better. And I noticed that the child's tone of voice from hysteria in the first two boxes went down. It went more calm. And in this fashion, the father, or the mother in this case, was able to calm down the hysterical emotion by having someone understand how much you want something makes reality easier to bear. Did the father solve the problem? No. Did the father make a box of toasty crunchies appear? No. Was the father able to magically give the child what they wanted? No. But through the warmth and empathy, the child's upsetness calmed down, and the child was able to solve their own problems. That's what emotional safety does. We do not have to solve the problem of our wife or our child, nor do they want us to, unless they ask us to. What should I do? If they ask, what should I do? Then they're already in the problem-solving mode where they've come to terms with it somewhat and they're asking for a solution. But at the beginning, gentlemen, we have to understand and have self-control and realize we don't offer solutions to our wife. They are smart enough to solve their own problems. They want someone, a partner, to understand them, to understand their pain, understand their feelings, to get them, to be present and let them process their emotions. So when you acknowledge when you name the feeling, when you say, I understand the feeling, and then the third step, when you be with the feeling, you let the feeling process. Just be quiet, be there, put an arm around a child or a wife and just say, it's tough, I'm with you. We think that doesn't solve the problem, but it does. We're not doing anything practical. It doesn't make any sense for us to say, oh, I'm sorry. We think that we have to solve the problem on a practical level. It's not true. We don't have to do that. We just have to learn to be there for our spouse and child. That is the art of emotional support. And I want you to practice that this week. And I'll practice it as well. This week, 7 days, 0 criticism, and let's try the art of emotional support. Name the feeling, acknowledge it, understand it, be with the feeling until the child or wife goes. Do this for your child and your wife, but also, gentlemen, let's do it for ourselves. It's in our own best interest to do it. Nobody in life does anything unless it's in their own best interest. Do it for yourself, because it will cause your life to be a lot better, because the complaining and the hysteria and the noise and the pain and the complaints will stop and will diminish greatly when we learn this art. Don't tell them you're doing it. Don't tell them, I learned a new technique. I'm going to do emotional support now. Don't tell them that. Don't tell your wife that. Don't tell your children that. Just do it. Just do it and watch the results. And I want to do this experiment with you, gentlemen. Let's get some data. Let's get some feedback next Tuesday night. Let's try it, all of us. Take some notes of what happened, when you did it right, when you did it wrong. Was there a denouement? Was there a diminishing of emotion where a person was able to go through your facilitating emotional support? Were you able to do it? Let's practice it this week. And next week, we're going to take some examples from the other book, How to Talk So Teens Will Listen. We're going to keep on this. We're going to keep on with this activity, gentlemen, because this is the key. The key, the art form, is to learn emotional support. That's what we're going to keep on working on this the next few weeks. And then we'll move on to other ideas and communication skills, how to fight fair, how to negotiate. We'll do that later on. Right now, we have to get it down well, where we're learning how to be artful in the art of emotional support. Thanks for listening. Looking forward to our data next Tuesday night. Hope to see you next Tuesday night at 8:30. Good night.